You know, I'm not technically a nominee to the United States Supreme Court, but I'd like to answer a question that yesterday Sonia Sotomayor would not answer. It had to do with self-defense. There's this senator on the Judiciary Committee named Tom Coburn. He's a medical doctor. And he says to her, "Your Honor, in your opinion, is there an innate right to self-defense? Do I, as an individual American, have the right to defend myself?" Now, that seems like a pretty straightforward question. I think that 99.9% of Americans could answer that like that. But this lady who's about to be put on the Supreme Court, she hemmed and hawed and danced and pirouetted and parsed and obfuscated and did everything but answer the question. And at the end of the day, it turned out that in her studied opinion, in fact, there is no answer to that question, is there a right to self-defense? Well, I know the answer to the question, and I know why she wouldn't answer it. First of all, you bet your behind there's a right to self-defense. It is inherent. It is an aspect of natural law. It is clearly implied in the United States Constitution and in our Declaration of Independence. So the answer is yes, there is a right to self-defense. Now, why wouldn't Sonia Sotomayor answer that? Because actually, our liberal friends are very reluctant to admit that there is a right of self-defense. And why would they be reluctant? Well, because if you allow that there is a right to defend yourself, that opens for them a kettle of fish on two important issues. The first is guns. Well, if I have a right to defend myself, if that is recognized by our law, then I have the right to defend myself effectively. And if there is a possibility that I will have to defend myself against armed assault, i.e. somebody comes after me with a knife or a gun or a baseball bat, then if I have the right to defend myself, then I must have the right to own and carry the implements necessary to effect my self-defense, which means I got the right to carry a gun. And that little fact absolutely scares the living bejeekers out of your liberal Democrat friends. That's issue one. The other is a little more complex, and it is issue two, abortion. Listen to this. If I have the right to defend myself against violent attack, then it stands to reason that the government has the right to defend people who can't defend themselves against violent attack. We do that all the time. If someone is an incompetent because they're a child, or because they are mentally ill, or because they are mentally handicapped, the state acts for them. The state presumes that they would want to be defended, and the state defends them. Well, what does this have to do with abortion? Just before Senator Coburn asked about self-defense, he asked if there was any room in Roe versus Wade for new medical technology. He said some babies, 21 weeks gestation, barely halfway cooked, have, with our new technology, been able to be saved when they were born prematurely. So he asked, would that child be considered viable, and therefore would the mother not have a right to abort it? Well, if an unborn child is viable, meaning that if it were prematurely delivered, it could be saved, well, then that unborn child is a human being. It is an incompetent human being in that it can't defend itself or make decisions for itself. Therefore, it would be a human being subject to the protection of the state. You see where I'm going with this? In that situation, the state would be authorized in the name of self-defense to pass laws protecting the life of that unborn child. And that would go head-to-head with that Roe versus Wade presumed right to an abortion. So Sonia Sotomayor and her patron Barack Obama and any number of other liberal Democrats are never going to answer yes to that question, is there a right to self-defense? Because for them, it's a scary precedent, because it means that there is a right to carry a gun, and in most instances, there is no right to an abortion. And they don't agree with either one of those conclusions, no matter how logical they may be, no matter how closely tied to this fundamental right of self-defense they may be. Again, nobody nominated me to the Supreme Court, yet I know the answer. Is there an inherent right to self-defense? You bet there is.